Welcome back to the Mind Spark. Tonight we begin with a story that could redraw the map of global trade. China has pledged $4.5 billion to build a modern Silk Road, not through Asia, but across Mexico's narrowest point. This isn't just about tracks. It's a direct challenge to the Panama Canal, one of the world's most vital trade arteries. The implications are enormous, sending ripples from Shanghai to Washington, D.C. In a high-level meeting in Mexico City, officials finalized the deal to fund the Interoceanic Corridor of the Isthmus of Tehuantepec. The project will connect the Pacific port of Salina Cruz with the Atlantic port of Coatzacoalcos via high-speed rail. For China, this is more than an investment. It's a strategic alternative to the congested, politically sensitive Panama Canal. Beijing is no longer content to use existing trade routes. It's building new ones to serve its own interests. For over a century, the Panama Canal has shaped global shipping and U.S. influence. Now, a rival is emerging just north, funded by America's top economic competitor. The project could slash transit times for goods heading to the U.S. East Coast, offering a faster, cheaper alternative. China is seizing a moment of vulnerability as the Panama Canal faces drought and geopolitical tension. This isn't just a railway, it's a fundamental shift in the global balance of power. To grasp the magnitude of Mexico's new rail line, we need to look back. Trade routes have always been the arteries of wealth, culture, and power. The ancient Silk Road connected China and Rome, carrying not just goods but ideas and technologies. Control over these routes meant control over prosperity. Empires rose and fell by securing and taxing the movement of goods. The age of sail turned oceans into highways, fueling the rise of colonial empires. The ultimate prize, a shortcut. This dream led to the Suez and Panama Canals, engineering marvels that forever changed global trade. The Panama Canal's 1914 opening cut weeks off journeys, supercharging U.S. trade and global shipping. For over a century, it's been a symbol of American influence and a critical choke point. But history teaches us, no trade artery is permanent. Routes evolve with technology, politics, and economics. The Panama Canal now faces new challenges: climate change, competition, and shifting power. China's investment in Mexico is the latest chapter in the ongoing story of who controls the world's trade. China's move in Mexico is part of a much larger vision, the Belt and Road Initiative, or BRI. Launched in 2013, the BRI is the most ambitious infrastructure project in history, aiming to connect China to the world through railways, ports, and highways. The BRI's goal is to foster trade and economic growth across Asia, Europe, and Africa. China has invested hundreds of billions in over 150 countries, building everything from power plants to railways. But beneath the surface, it's about expanding China's global influence and creating economic dependencies. For years, the BRI was absent from the Americas, America's traditional sphere of influence. This $4.5 billion investment in Mexico marks a bold escalation, planting the BRI's flag in North America. It signals that no region is off-limits to China's ambitions. The Mexico Rail project isn't just about logistics, it's about integrating a key North American economy into a China-centric network. It reduces China's reliance on US-controlled choke points. This corridor is a strategic link in Beijing's global chain, designed to secure its economic future. Let's look at the project itself. With $4.5 billion in Chinese capital, Mexico will modernize the Interoceanic Corridor at its narrowest point, just over 180 miles. The plan upgrade railways for high-speed, double-stacked container trains and expand deep-water ports at Salina Cruz and Coatzacoalcos. It's a land bridge, moving containers from one ocean to another in hours, not days. The goal, a direct, formidable competitor to the Panama Canal. Ships from Asia could offload at Salina Cruz with containers whisked by rail to the Atlantic for reloading to the U.S. East Coast or Europe. Proponents say this could shave days off transit times, crucial in just-in-time logistics. For China, it's an insurance policy against Panama Canal bottlenecks and climate disruptions. The project isn't just a railway, it's a comprehensive logistics and industrial hub. 10 industrial parks are planned along the route, attracting manufacturing and assembly plants. This transforms the corridor into a dynamic economic zone, integrating Mexico into global supply chains. For Mexico, Chinese investment could be transformative. Construction will create tens of thousands of jobs in a historically underdeveloped region. Once operational, the corridor will generate sustained employment in logistics, ports, and manufacturing. The project promises to upgrade national infrastructure, making Mexican exports more competitive. 10 new industrial parks could turn the region into a manufacturing powerhouse. But the risks are real, chief among them, over-reliance on China. Critics warn of debt-trap diplomacy, where economic dependence could erode Mexico's autonomy. If revenues fall short, Mexico could face financial strain and political pressure from Beijing. Environmental concerns are also immense. The corridor cuts through biodiverse rainforests and indigenous lands. Balancing economic growth with environmental protection and indigenous rights will be a major challenge. The geopolitical shockwaves from this project are profound. For the US, China building a strategic trade corridor in Mexico is a direct challenge to its influence in the region. Washington has long considered Latin America its backyard, and a major Chinese-backed project so close to its border raises alarm. US officials worry the economic project could evolve into something with security implications. For China, it's a masterstroke, establishing a powerful economic foothold in North America and creating leverage with the US. It also strengthens ties with Mexico, a key US trading partner, and could create divisions within the USMCA trade bloc. Mexico now finds itself balancing two superpowers. Its economic destiny is tied to the US, but rejecting China's investment would be a missed opportunity. Mexico's strategy is pragmatic neutrality, leveraging US-China rivalry for its own benefit. The region becomes a key arena for 21st century competition. The US may counter with its own investments and diplomatic efforts. Mexico's balancing act will be watched closely by other nations caught between global giants. The steel rails across the isthmus are laying down new front lines of global competition. The stakes have never been higher. The Mexican corridor is more than a standalone venture. It's a blueprint for the future of global trade infrastructure. It reflects three trends: the search for resilient supply chains, demand for greener logistics, and push for regional integration. The pandemic and recent conflicts expose the fragility of global supply chains. The Mexican rail line offers diversification and redundancy to the Panama route. Rail transport is more fuel efficient and emits less carbon than long sea voyages or trucking. By shortening journeys and using electric trains, the corridor can be marketed as a greener alternative. The project also drives regional integration, positioning Mexico as the crossroads of the Americas. Industrial parks along the route encourage nearshoring, moving manufacturing closer to end markets. The focus is shifting from the cheapest route to the most resilient and integrated one. The Mexican corridor is a model for future mega projects where geography meets technology and strategy. The Mexico Rail project is a stepping stone into a future where technology will reshape global trade. The real revolution is in the digital layer managing the flow of goods. Blockchain will create transparent real-time records for every container, reducing fraud and paperwork. Artificial intelligence will optimize port operations, train schedules, and reroute shipments to avoid bottlenecks. Imagine an intelligent system adjusting logistics in real time for the fastest, safest journey. The corridor, built with modern tech in mind, could become a showcase for this digital frontier. Advanced manufacturing like 3D printing may shift trade from finished goods to raw materials and components. Logistics corridors will need to adapt, handling more bulk materials for new manufacturing hubs. Amidst technological change, trade policies remain unpredictable. Protectionism and tariffs can upend supply chains overnight. Multiple redundant trade routes like the Panama Canal and the Mexican corridor provide the flexibility needed for the future. China's $4.5 billion investment in Mexico's Interoceanic Corridor is more than a railway. It's a bold move signaling a new era in global commerce. It challenges the Panama Canal's dominance and expands China's Belt and Road Initiative into North America. For Mexico, it's a path to economic revitalization, but one that requires balancing US and Chinese interests. The project highlights the need for resilient, diversified supply chains in a world prone to disruption. Integrating physical infrastructure with digital technologies like AI and blockchain will create hyper-efficient logistics networks. The corridor is a sign of the global shift toward nearshoring and regional integration, but the risks, environmental damage and geopolitical tension, are as great as the opportunities. Mexico's test of economic sovereignty versus dependency will be watched by nations worldwide. The construction of this new trade artery is a clear sign that the maps of global power are being redrawn. The world is watching because the tracks being laid today will shape the global economy for generations to come. The ribbon has been cut, the trains are running, and the Interoceanic Corridor is no longer just a blueprint. It's a living, breathing artery. But what does this mean for the people whose lives unfold along its path? In the small towns of Oaxaca and Veracruz, new opportunities arrive with the morning freight. Local businesses, once isolated, now find markets open to them across the Atlantic and Pacific. Artisans ship crafts abroad in days, not weeks. Farmers see their harvests reach distant cities, driving up incomes and aspirations, yet change is never seamless. Some communities wrestle with the noise and disruption of constant construction. Traditional ways of life, quiet fishing villages, centuries-old markets are transformed overnight. The influx of workers and capital brings both prosperity and pressure, testing the fabric of local culture. For many, the corridor is a lifeline, pulling families out of poverty and bringing education, healthcare, and new technology. For others, it's a challenge, a call to adapt or risk being left behind. As Mexico's new trade artery pulses with activity, its impact is deeply personal. The corridor's promise is real, but so are the growing pains. The future has arrived on the isthmus and its story is just beginning. As the Interoceanic Corridor transforms Mexico's southern isthmus, its reverberations are felt far beyond the country's borders. In Washington, the project sparks urgent discussions behind closed doors. For generations, the United States has viewed Latin America as its strategic backyard, and a new trade artery, running parallel to the Panama Canal, raises both eyebrows and alarms. American policymakers weigh the corridor's potential to shift trade flows, impact U.S. ports, and invite new players into the hemisphere. Some see opportunity, a faster, safer route for North American goods, and a chance to strengthen regional supply chains. Others worry about increased competition and the growing influence of countries like China, which has invested heavily in infrastructure worldwide. Across the Atlantic and Pacific, global powers assess the corridor's promise. European nations eye new access to Latin American markets. Asian exporters recalibrate their shipping routes, calculating time and cost savings. Meanwhile, China's Belt and Road Initiative suddenly faces a formidable rival on the world stage. Diplomats, economists, and strategists all ask the same questions. Who will control the corridor's flow of goods and data? How will this reshape alliances, trade agreements, and the delicate balance of global power? The Interoceanic Corridor is more than steel rails and shipping containers. It's a new front in the contest for influence, prosperity, and security. As nations respond, the story of Mexico's mega-project becomes a chapter in the larger drama of a world being redrawn. Beneath the promise of prosperity, another story quietly unfolds along Mexico's new Interoceanic Corridor, a story written in forests, rivers, and the lives of those who call the isthmus home. As construction crews lay tracks and shipping hubs rise, environmentalists and local communities sound the alarm. The corridor slices through some of the country's most biodiverse regions, home to rare wildlife and ancient ecosystems. Satellite images reveal the scale of transformation. Patches of cleared jungle, rerouted waterways, and growing stretches of concrete. Scientists warn of habitat loss, disrupted migration patterns, and the risk of pollution from increased industrial activity. For indigenous groups and farmers, the mega-project brings uncertainty. Will their land and way of life survive the march of progress? Or will they pay the hidden price of global trade? Yet, hope persists. Engineers and policymakers tout green corridors and wildlife crossings, promising to balance growth with conservation. Renewable energy powers some facilities, and new regulations aim to reduce emissions from freight. International watchdogs push for transparency and accountability, urging Mexico to set a global example in sustainable infrastructure. The Interoceanic Corridor stands at a crossroads, not just of continents but of choices. Will it become a model for responsible development, or another cautionary tale of unchecked ambition? As the world watches, the fate of the isthmus's natural treasures hangs in the balance, a testament to the complex interplay between progress and preservation. As the dust settles on the isthmus and the world takes stock, a new question emerges. What comes next for global trade and the mega-projects that shape it? Experts from around the world weigh in, offering glimpses into a possible tomorrow. Some see a future defined by resilience, where supply chains are more flexible and infrastructure is built to withstand pandemics, climate shocks, and shifting alliances. Digitalization and automation transform ports and railways into smart corridors, guided by artificial intelligence and real-time data. Drones monitor traffic, autonomous vehicles move goods with precision. Others warn of new divides, nations left behind by the race for connectivity, or regions caught in the crossfire of economic rivalries. Will mega-projects like the Interoceanic Corridor spark a new era of cooperation, or fuel fresh competition for resources and influence? Sustainability experts predict that green infrastructure will become not just a bonus but a baseline, required by investors, demanded by communities, and enforced by global agreements. The next generation of megaprojects may be judged as much by their carbon footprint as by their economic impact. And as the world's population grows ever more interconnected, the very definition of trade may evolve. Will we see new technologies like blockchain, green hydrogen, and quantum computing reshape the flow of goods and ideas? Could future megaprojects focus as much on digital highways as on physical ones? One thing is certain, the story of global trade is far from over. The choices made today, on the isthmus and beyond, will echo for generations. As the horizon unfolds, the world watches and wonders what new paths we will carve across the map.